steering wheel. Somebody tell him to give it to me.
There's something loose between my legs.
I don't know. Let's go!
I'm heavier than a freaking boat.
Nothing you can say can make that any better.
Yeah, nobody. No more radio for the rest of the race.
I'm going home.
Hello and welcome to DRSFC, an F1 podcast by soccer nerds. I am a soccer nerd. I'm André Carlisle here with two other soccer nerds. Kyle, how are you?
I'm doing well. It felt early, it felt chaotic, and I guess Pirelli was onto something with changing the tire compounds. Kind of.
Yeah. There will be lots of hashtag tire talk. The best tease in podcast history there. Donald, how are you?
I'm good. I think the Imola is always interesting, and the fact that, I think it's been hinted that it might be the last year on the grid, for at least for the foreseeable future. It gave us a pretty decent race in certain aspects.
It sure did. I was listening to so many previews, and every preview was like, it's really not an exciting race anymore. The cars have kind of outgrown the track. The track itself doesn't provide many overtaking possibilities given the way that you have to drive it. And there's only one DRS zone on the straight. And that's really the only opportunity. And whoa, we saw not that. There were so many overtakes on the track and in terms of strategy. Two safety cars, which also were kind of expected as well. But let's get through the results and kind of the talking points before we I think I actually want to start in qualifying when we start reviewing everything. So just in case you haven't heard, Max Verstappen won the race. They say, this is an old racing thing, is that you can't win a race in the first turn or the first corner, but you can lose one. I think Max might have won the race in the first corner. We'll talk about it. There were two safety cars, as we mentioned. One was virtual. One was a standard safety car. I think the virtual really helped out Max, but still, obviously good positioning, good kind of waiting for that sort of call, which is an old school, kind of a throwback to 2023 Red Bull, maybe even prior to 2023 because they were just dominant that year. Ferrari had a good recovery in the race, which was surprising. We had a Williams in fifth, which is becoming not surprising, he says with a question mark. But let's start at qualifying. Two big crashes. And I want to start with Yuki's, because it was Yuki and Colapinto who just came back. The crash-happy Colapinto did crash in his first competitive session back. Who could have seen that coming? But I want to focus on Yuki's crash because I think listening to a lot of the previews and a lot of people talk about this track, it's got a lot of history, positive and negative. But I didn't really hear too many people talk about the negative aspect of it, which kind of makes sense, obviously. But I think in order to spotlight, like when a crash like this does happen, there is like a huge credit to the safety measures that have been implemented in the sport. I mean, this is a track where several drivers died in one weekend. And when you saw Yuki walking away, you're like, oh man, he just spun into the barrier. You see the replay and you see the car flipped and was upside down. You're like, oh, it's actually miraculous that he just walked away from that. And a lot of that is to the safety measures. Donald, what were your thoughts on the crash itself? I mean, just how it happened, but also it happening at that track and Yuki being completely fine.
I mean, we've talked about Imola on the Senna episode that's the site of the darkest day in F1 history is what prompted so many of the safety components that are on cars today, and not just on these cars. We're going to talk about the two crashes here, but in Indy 500 qualifying, they also had two spectacular crashes that were similar to that of Yuki's, and it was a very bad weekend for driving in that regard, but it was a huge win for all of these safety components that have come up over the years and the technology of the cars and making it where these guys were all able to just hop out like nothing happened. Like you said, we had to see the replay to understand how extensive Yuki's crash was. And I think the words a lot of people were saying were, holy shit. Like, how did that happen? First of all, it's been a while since we've seen an F1 car kind of go in the air like that. And it's been a few years. And so that was jarring. The fact that, like you said, it was an Imola where all this negative history has happened, that was jarring. But the fact that of the 90 billion cameras that F1 has, we didn't get that in real time, and we had to kind of learn about it on the replay. That I think in a way maybe was good. It prepared us for the shock a little bit more, as opposed to it happening in real time and hearing a billion people around the world kind of gasp collectively. But I'm really glad that Yuki is okay with in the fact that he hopped out like it was just a slow, roll into the wall. Kind of underscored a little bit what it was. He was checked out. He's fine. And as you mentioned, ran the race. But it's a miracle that, again, we got to that point. The halo was on its job in that particular race. It saved more than one person on more than one occasion. And unfortunately, you add Yuki to the situation. But fortunately, we get to say Yuki walk away from that crash because of how safe that car has grown to be in years past.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, I didn't know how bad it was and then you kind of see later on, like, all the comments from the other drivers, like, oh my God, is he okay? And then you see it and you're like, oh my God. It, like, the last crash I could think of where I went, oh shit, was Joe at, I think it was Silverstone, 2022 or 2023. That was like the last time I can remember a crash where I was just audibly like, oh shit. And the fact that there has been so many safety advances, and you mentioned the Indy 500 and seeing that one in the camera, like the driver's cam, is another one. I was like, oh my, how do these drivers survive this? And I think it's a big testament to the engineers. It's a big testament to the FIA and everyone involved to make these cars safer, because especially with this track, you don't want to see another tragic accident. And thankfully, it's been a while since we've had a tragedy of this scale in Formula 1, Formula 2, Formula 3. But it is one of those crashes, and you can just walk down and it's like, okay, yeah, like, it was unfortunate, but I'm okay. And it's like, I don't know how you walk away from that and it's just like, yeah, we're cool. And also, like, no one in, like, the stands or anything, because it was, like, close to where maybe, like, debris or something could have, like, gotten someone as well. So I think just all of these showings and advancements in technology and safety, I think this is one of those, like, you don't want to have this be a shining accomplishment, but it also does point to, hey, this is, like, we have made this safer in a way that has not been shown in the last couple decades.
I also think, again, we hate that the negative yields the positive, but you could tell at that moment how close these drivers are to each other. The fact that almost everyone immediately was like, who is that? Are they okay? And everyone kind of going, yep, he's, Yuki's out of the car. He walked away. And everyone kind of, you could even see some of the drivers kind of like sigh when they saw the crash. And even Liam Lawson, who, again, Liam Lawson and him have been competing for chairs, right? Competing for seats in F1. And he was like, oh my God, I saw the video as I drove past it. Oh my God, is he okay? Right? Like that. I'm glad that the drivers are close enough that is a thing. And again, they all have to deal with that aspect. And I'm sure that helped Yuki get back in that car, because it could have been all good if he said, you know what, that's enough fun for one weekend. I'm gonna take the race off. But to give him that confidence to get back in the car and drive a race is, again, that shows the testament of the fraternity that they exist in.
Yeah, I kind of always do. Like, it is such a reminder almost when a driver has a big crash and all the other drivers ask immediately, are they okay? It's like an instant reminder of how dangerous it still is. And yeah, I think Donald, like, Liam Lawson's response was it for me. Like, he saw that, he was like, oh my God, like he had the same reaction we all did watching the replay of that crash and the car flip. So I always kind of love when drivers do that. I think that some things should transcend competition, and that's definitely one of them. And especially in that sport, and obviously especially that track. So I thought it was important to start there, because I think a lot of people ignored it, which was weird, given the track history, the track itself, the track going away, and then seeing a big crash there. It's like, oh, maybe this is why, another reason why the track, I mean, it's not the primary reason why. Primary reason is with commercial rights and other and money, essentially. But I also think, like, the history of the track and what we saw should also play a factor from time to time. All right, now let's talk about the race, because the race started. We were talking about qualifying. Oscar Piastri was on pole. Max Verstappen was behind him. George Russell was behind him. And then Lando Norris was behind him. That's not how the race ended, if you remember the podium from the beginning of this episode. So Max Verstappen ends up passing Oscar Piastri, kind of doing what he's done to Lando several times, except this time, listen, we've been talking about Oscar. We've been talking about how great he is, silent assassin, all that. Lando needs more dog. I feel like this was real bad from Oscar. Like, that's my read of it. I do not think that he should have been in a position to really allow that to happen. And to me, like, I'll give my take on it, but I'm also interested, like, Kyle, what do you think? Because you're like, you're pretty, I think of all of us, you're maybe the most fairest of us all. We all just kind of like, no, and I'm sorry, this is my perception. We all just kind of like, you ain't got no dog. And Kyle gives us like the measured take. So I'm interested in your measured take.
On the Oscar situation or Lando's qualifying? Because Lando's qualifying was not good. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know what the drop-off was. The fact that George even was passing Lando. And I feel like this is one of those where last year, I feel like the roles were switched, where Lando was really good at qualifying and Oscar would always make a mistake or he didn't have the pace. And now it seems like it's been the opposite. So I don't know what happened. However, Lando did do a solid job driving overall, so I will give him that. In terms of Oscar, I mean, that was not great. He even said he braked too early. But the other thing, and I'm trying to give Oscar a little bit of grace on this, there's only two drivers where if you give them that space, they are going to take advantage and they're going to make it work. Lewis Hamilton is one of them. Max Verstappen is the other. And that was a hell of a move by Max. Like, this is one of those times where you look at Max and you go, you see, the talent's there, so why do you got to do all this other bullshit? You are capable of doing good things and cool things in a way that everyone can applaud. So why do you do the other nonsense in between? But I think it was one of those as well with Oscar, though. It's like he had a good start. And that's the thing. It's like he had the better start than Max, but he did a mistake that we don't see. And I think that was one of those where you said you can't win a race off of the first few turns. No, Max won that race because that was a hell of a move. Oscar did lose that race because of that. I don't know. It was one of those where you don't see that kind of mistake from Oscar. So maybe, and he knows that he was disappointed. Lando recovered well enough. I don't know what's going on with this qualifying. After qualifying, he said his ex-dog is Ferrari. That was probably the lowest I've given Lando's ex-dog, to be honest.
That's messed up. That's messed up for Ferrari.
It was bad.
I was equating him to PetSmart, and I thought that was low. But you took it. Why'd you have to take it to Ferrari, man? No, I think for Oscar, when I saw it happen, when I saw the first turn, and you mentioned turn two, it was basically like turn two was all but done. Turn one is what did it. And you kind of just were like, damn, Max, come on, man. Like, stop being that good. Because I don't think Oscar was that bad, but I think he was bad enough against, like you said, one of the two guys on the planet who could make that move. And the one that he is cowboy enough to just go ahead and do it no matter what, right? Like we've talked about him. It's a millimeter of space. I'm going for it. And so for Oscar to pick the wrong time to be pedestrian that's what you're just kind of like, damn, like you had to do that when Max was there. Why can't you do that when it's like George Russell or something like that? Like, not to say that George Russell wouldn't take that turn, but it would make it a more entertaining thing, because once Max went around that corner, you're like, okay, so second place is good, right? Like y'all could go for second place, and because you knew there was going to be something that happened that would allow for Max to make that pit stop that he needed to without any duress and really come out and have that kind of lead that he normally likes to build in these type of races. So yeah, it was uncharacteristic by Oscar. Was it bad? Was it terrible? But it was just bad enough, and it was so uncharacteristic that you just kind of threw up your hands and said, like, Oscar, we believed in you. We all were rooting for you, and you messed up on turn one and just made it where it wasn't a possibility.
I'll tell you why I think it was terrible.
Please do.
Because I do think it was terrible. The reason why I think it was terrible is because that move, in my opinion, happened because Oscar was not paying attention to Max. He was more focused on George Russell, who was right behind him. Mm-hmm. You can't roll out Max Verstappen. I thought this entire time Oscar Piastri knew his opponent, knew who he was, respected him on a competitive level, but was like, I'm not, I know you. I know what you're going to try to do. Like we talked about, what was it, in Miami? He basically stalked Max and said, I know exactly what you're going to try to do to me. So therefore, I'm going to hit my brakes early. You're going to go. I'm going to get in behind you. That's how he made that pass. Knowing your enemy. I thought he knew who his enemy was. Clearly, he did not. George Russell, yeah, he's been in the top 5 every race. Wasn't this race. And I know, like hindsight, you could be like, if George wants to pass you, fine. You know you got a much better car than him. But the combination of Max and that Red Bull on the right day, that's hard to do on a track that doesn't allow you to do too much overtaking. You know you need that clean air, especially to hold off Max. At a track like this, you have to know exactly who you're going up against. And I thought it was really kind of just a poor oversight by him. And yeah, okay, the closest car to him at the time was like, George even said he like brake tested me. George was like, oh my God, he broke early. So I'm annoyed with him that he completely like thought that, I don't know what he thought. He must have thought that Max had a bad start, which he didn't have a great start, and that Max was not going to be a factor. You can't think like that. You absolutely can't think like that.
But was it a brain fart? Was it a distraction? Like I could see like him in a moment's notice, right? Again, uncharacteristic start of his, to be like, oh, George is behind me, and then just kind of look to his right and go, see, damn, I knew he was coming, and I forgot that he was over there. And as you see him blow by, right? And I wonder if that combination just, again, allowed him to, leave his body for a second and go, oh, wait, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And as you mentioned, it's too late after that. It's a split second in this game. And that corner, by the time he realized Max was there, Max was already past him.
Yeah. And Oscar never got DRS on him. So like that was it. Like when he tried to chase him down and couldn't, I was like, oh, it's a wrap. Max is winning this race. And that was like 3 or 4 laps in. I was like, oh, it's a wrap. Like he can't catch him. It's over.
Yeah. It was one of those where, and when you watch the start, it's like, I get what you're saying. Like you can't give Max that opportunity, but he did leave the door open. Like he left that door open like he was Silk Sonic. And that's just no. No. Don't do that.
I got that. I heard that. Silk Sonic reference.
You tried to just slide it in there real sneaky. Like, I appreciated it.
We got to be subtle.
But yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. That's what frustrates me. And it's not that I'm being like a true Max hater. Like, yes, I am. But in this instance, I'm not, because I agree with you, Kyle. Like, that's the Max I do want to see. Like, that's the Max I respect. Like, you see a sliver of an opportunity and you go for it legally, cleanly. He didn't push anybody off the track, push anybody in any gravel. He got there and with a great late braking move that he was able to control and keep the car in between the lines. Again, he's one of the greatest drivers ever. I know he can do it. So, but all this pushing people off the track nonsense is annoying. So I do love it. And I feel like I have to also praise it and highlight it when he does something that's just extremely dope. It was a great move. Like, Oscar left the door cracked open a little bit, but I agree with you. Like, there's only a handful of drivers who are going to go for it and be able to control it that smoothly. Because if you watch it back, it was smooth. Like he went there late break and then just snaked around the chicane and was gone. And you're like, oh my God, like that was incredible. But I'm more frustrated with Oscar in that moment because I just feel like you got to know who you got to know. You got to know. And of the cars that you're going to chase down, is it easier for you to chase down Max or easier for you to chase down George? I'd take chasing down George over Max.
True, but it's not as though George was slow because, as we saw with Lando, it took a while because the Mercedes had good straight line speed, something I don't think we've said since like 2021. So even if he had let George through and tried chasing him down, it would have lost more time. It would have caused him, he would have been in this DRS battle. And I think Max was just fast. Like you said, he was gone by lap 2 or 3 and he was not in DRS zone. It's like, all right, unless his car fails him or you get a very fortunate safety car, which there was a safety car that happened, but it was too little too late by then. And
Kyle,
Oscar's strategy was a mess. Yeah.
Can I just ask you a quick question based off what you said about the Mercedes?
Yeah.
Where did George Russell finish?
I mean, he finished 7th because of. I'm just saying they had straight line speed. They didn't have any other speed. They had straight line
that's
speed.
what I'm saying. Like I do
straight,
think
so.
that's what I'm saying. Like of the two cars, if you're gonna get anybody in the lead and back yourself to track them down, like we saw what Max did at Suzuka, you're not gonna catch that dude on a track like that.
Fair.
But like here, chase George if you have to chase George. Just don't let it be Max.
I was going to ask a quick poll. Which move was better? Was it Max on turn 1 against Piastri, or was it Franco Colapinto crashing with 2 seconds left in Q1 to deny Ollie Behrman a chance in Q2, and then also deny his team a chance at getting into Q3? I'm wondering.
Wow.
Look, Flavio Briatore may or may not have put a word in to Franco's ear before qualifying.
Because he was back in the paddock very quickly.
I'm just saying, based on Briatore's history,
Correct.
There is a chance that it may have happened. It's a weird coincidence, let's just say.
Oh, that dude. Anyway,
well, it gave us one of the great things of the weekend, which is kind of looking like,
yes,
bruh.
It's so funny about that. I put this in the group chat, but as soon as they like that happened, I thought the truck, like the broadcast booth, broadcast truck was being like messy and splicing in a clip of doing like smirking after showing like the Colapinto crash. And the commentators were real quick to be like, that's not a live shot. Like, we just want to make sure we kind of clear anything up. And then they heard word from the truck, like, actually, this was his reaction to the crash. And I was like,
every picture that you see of the smirk has like 20 cameras around it. So you're like, it looks like he's walking into the paddock like in the morning, right? And I was like, yeah, there's probably a bunch of cameras found. And they're like, no, the cameras were like, Colapinto crashed. Where's Dewitt? Where are he at? He's right here. Zoom in on him.
This is going to be the messiest shit between the Colapinto fans just abusing Jack to the point that today Alpine had to put out a statement being like, stop fucking with people.
Yeah. They've been real bad versus Yuki too.
Yeah. I feel like we're going to have this happen. This whole Colapinto doing rivalry. I feel like this is going to be a thing for the next 5 races.
Ebony's under the weather, so we hope she's getting better, but also she might need to cancel her little appointment with the tattoo artist. That is not happening.
Yeah, I was going to say that probability chart. It is flatlining at 0.
Yeah, it's underneath. It's underneath Lando's ex-dog.
we might need to change it to Williams or something because Williams is hooping.
No, Deep T's already got Williams. Deep T already has Williams. We can't give Ebony that one.
I mean, we got to find something because I'm like, we ain't even halfway through the season, and this is already just I thought it was going to be a fun thing to track the entirety of the season, and it's over. Like, it is already over. Alpine is not happening. All right, let's actually talk about Ferrari next because given their qualifying, which both drivers knocked out in Q2, which by the way, if you're an Italian fan, like shout out to you for making it through the entire race or the entire weekend, because that Saturday was probably one of the worst days. Like this is the last race at Imola. You're like, okay, Ferrari and Kimi Antonelli. And then who was it? Was it who knocked out Kimi? It was Pierre Gasly who knocked Kimi out. Yeah. And then it was 2 Aston Martins on medium tires to knock out Ferraris in a regular Grand Prix qualifying session. You had to be hurting if you were an Italian motorsport fan, and in any way, it was so frustrating.
I'm just saying, it probably Aston Martin and Pierre Gasly were looking at everyone in the grandstand, taking a thing of spaghetti and snapping it in half in front of them.
Oh yeah,
that's what it was.
Found a kid, probably found a 7-year-old. Like, oh, you're part of the Tifosi. You like Ferrari, huh? Snap.
Just snap it, throw it right in the trash.
Enjoy your weekend.
Sprinkle it in the trash.
Yeah, just drizzle it on the track. Enjoy yourself. Clean it up.
Right? It's just rude, man. It was so bad, and I was just like, damn, that sucks. And so, like, what was it? Charles was 11th. Lewis was 12th. It looked really bad. But then they turn around and get 4th and 6th. And honestly, like Lewis, you hear his team radio after the race. that dude sounds more encouraged than he has this entire season. And I was surprised by that. Like he said, the car was mega. He felt like he dropped the word synergy. I was like, okay, boardroom Lewis. He dropped the word synergy he was feeling synergy with the car. He was like, if we can figure out our qualifying, like we can get wins. And I was like, oh, hold on a second, play. Like let's not get too hasty. That car is still bad. By the way, do you remember Saturday? It was not good. So like, yeah, it was a great fight back. But also, like, Donald, where did that come from?
I mean, I think, honestly, being at home helps. The Ferrari fans were everywhere.
Why didn't it help on Saturday? Is what I want to know.
It didn't help on Saturday, but on Sunday, I mean, again, that's why they call it practice, right? We're talking about practice. We're not talking about the actual game, right? In the actual game, they showed up to play.
Hold on a second. Qualifying ain't practice.
Practice is practice.
Yeah, practice is practice. Qualifying ain't practice.
Ain't no points earned in qualifying, right?
You can definitely lose points in qualifying given on where you start.
That's true. But I'm saying, like, at the end of the day, you can show up in the race, and we've seen Lewis Hamilton start in, like, the teens and work his way up to podiums, right? We've seen him do it. If anyone could do it, it's him. And if you look at the standings, really, you say 4th and 6th. It's really 4th and 5th. Leclerc had to give his place back in the last lap because of him bumping tires with Albon. So, they had a great showing on Sunday. Yeah, was Saturday disastrous? Absolutely. But you make up for it by having a good Sunday, and it did not feel like the Tifosi gave a damn about what happened on Saturday at the end of the race on Sunday, because they were out in full force and they were very appreciative of the effort that the team got. And again, that's the kind of positivity that they need, because 4th and 6th, when you're looking at the constructors' points and you're looking at the drivers' championship, that's not going to help them that much. But it feels like they ended the weekend on the win, and hopefully that takes them into Monaco, which of course Leclerc is the defending champion in that, and he knows he can win it. Lewis Hamilton feels like he can improve on his standing. And I think also we've seen for the first time, I think it's the first time this season in the race, that Lewis has finished above Leclerc in the Grand Prix, right? He's done it in the sprints, but not in the Grand Prix, I believe. So again, it's all good for him, in the fact that he knows that he can get it done even on a bad car that's running terribly at certain points. The strategies worked. They had great pit stops. I think the one pit stop that Lewis had was 2.1, and they said they almost adjusted it down because it was that quick. They really didn't get the timer started right. So again, they did everything right. It's just, as I mentioned, if you qualify a little bit better, then they have a chance at running for the podiums and for the wins, as opposed to running for 4th and for 6th.
It is interesting, though, because we should have known Ferrari was going to have a struggle with qualifying, considering all the feedback that was happening in practice. At one point, Leclerc was like, hey, something's wrong with this car. And they're like, we'll look into it tomorrow. It's like, oh, that's not good. That's not good. But
that made me so mad. I'm not going to lie.
We should have known. But
and Lewis had the same issue like 3 laps later. And they're like, we didn't told your boy that we're going to look into this later. And they're both like,
we're working on it.
Like, we're the ones driving it.
Look, with Ferrari, you're either going to get a good race or a good quali. You're not getting both.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing that frustrated me, because that was in like Friday's practice session. They're like, we'll get to it tomorrow. I'm like, tomorrow? It's too late. What do you mean it's tomorrow? I'm so mad at Ferrari sometimes. Did y'all see that video of Lewis walking into the paddock early and nobody was there?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
It was so funny. He was like, am I too early? Like,
is this a work day, right? Like,
yeah, he was like, where is everybody? I was like, oh, Lewis, you got a level of dog about you that I don't know exist. Like, dog doesn't wake up until about 10 a.m. In Italy, I guess.
But it's funny because like a couple weeks ago, I think it was at Miami. They had a video of Verstappen showing up, and Verstappen's like, they're like, oh, you're here early. He's like, look, 4-time world champion. And he points at Lewis. He goes, 7-time world champion. We're the only 2 here. Like, everyone else is late. Maybe there's something there. And he just kind of walked off. And Lewis again was just kind of chilling in the corner, like, I've been here since 5. And even in the race, they have a video of him like driving into the paddock, and he was being interviewed basically about life at Ferrari so far. And he's like, I love this. He's like, I was so excited. I woke up at 5, and he was just like, what time, like, do I need to go in? And he's like, I'm just, looking at my phone and trying to, calm myself down. But he's like, I'm so amped and ready and energized to come back in here and do this that I just came in early. And I think, again, that sort of work ethic is why you end up being a 7-time champion who's 4, things out of his control short of an 11-time world champion. So I think that's where he's looking. And now that he knows he's getting better at figuring out the car in all of its flaws and how to work with it, that is, I'm sure, helping his confidence too.
But let's also put a note. Leclerc was not in a good mood after that race. He was pissed. He was not happy. He was like, the safety cars hurt him, the strategy. He had no tires left. They asked, do you have any hope going into Monaco? And I think he said, basically, it was just like, nope. So we'll see. But it seems like we have two varying experiences, which actually makes sense for Ferrari. You get one or the other, you get both sides of it.
Yeah, that's fair. And I was going to say, Donald, on that whole, Lewis getting up early, it still seems like that video dropped. It did the rounds on social media, and Ferrari said, that's cool. Good for you. We'll be in at 10 a.m.
We were told to be here at 10 a.m. We will be there at 9:59.
Right.
They released the video probably before the rest of Ferrari showed up, like, oh, you posted this morning. When was this? You were up at 5:30. What were we doing at 5? You got a whole video done and produced and cut and edited and posted
strap in between
before we even got here.
Right? Yeah.
What are you doing?
I just Ferrari. Ferrari's gonna Ferrari, and I think for our Monaco preview, I'll have a lot to say because they're doing the same thing. One thing we promised tire talk, and we might as well get into it now, is that C6 tire, which is the softest in the range. Pirelli has never used it before and during a weekend and used it in Imola. And that's why in qualifying, you did see, I think George Russell in Q3 used a medium tire. The two Astons, as we talked about in Q2, knocked both the Ferraris out when the Astons put on the medium tires because they were lasting the entirety of the lap. Whereas the C6 tire, the softest one, which was the soft tire for this weekend, was not lasting the lap. And when you think about George as well, yeah, he qualified well, and sometimes George exaggerates. So I'm not going to say he could have had pole. He was like, I could have been on pole. I'm like, take it easy. But he did say that he had to be in first gear to start his lap, and that cost him a 10th, or he said a 10th or 2 or something like that. I'm like, well, yeah, okay. I don't think he could have gotten on pole, but he probably could have challenged Max for second, and he maybe could have gotten like, I don't know. I don't. Pole seems to be a bit ambitious for where the Mercedes is in terms of one lap pace versus the McLaren and the Red Bull when it's like at a track that kind of agrees with it, which is what we had at Imola. But still, the medium tire was interesting to see come out. We only see that in like sprint qualifying, where the first 2 qualifying sessions are medium tires. The last one is soft. This time, it was a real strategic decision, which I'm surprised Ferrari didn't try. Now, again, I'm having expectations of Ferrari. Maybe that's on me.
It's not. It's fine to have those expectations, but sometimes you just gotta go in there with the Novocaine of like, hey, they are going to do like Kyle said, you're only getting one or the other. So just like, hey man, just let's get the weird stuff out of the way early and that the race can be fine. And you just kind of, expect to be disappointed or at least expect to be like, yep, that happened the way I thought it would. It just feels like Ferrari's MO, even again in their home race.
But also, I think this just showed that there was absolutely no reason for this nonsense C6 compound. It was not useful in the race. It was barely useful in qualifying. If the goal, like there were still teams that would have done a one stop. Like Max could have done a one stop were it not for a safety car. Like a lot of the top drivers didn't need 2-3 stops. I don't know what, and like we didn't use the C6. It wasn't helpful in qualifying. I thought at least it would be, we're going to see quick times and it's going to make qualifying interesting because everyone's going to be at this high speed at this track. And realistically, it was, this is not going to work in qualifying. We need to use mediums. And I mean, that's not very encouraging. Pirelli could say, yeah, we could say it was the right decision to do that. But I think realistically, no. Teams will kind of realize, okay, don't bother with the C6. in qualifying. Don't bother with the C6 in the race. Like, we'll just burn them all in practice.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point because that was what like kind of messed Leclerc up a little bit. You know, that's why he ended up being, which by the way, I kind of I do want to talk a minute about that Albon Leclerc thing because I do think that like that's where the rule book causes problems despite like nothing being actually determined. Ferrari was so scared that they were going to get a 5-second penalty and lose a ton of points that they were just like give the position back. That ain't really the kind of racing on track we want to see. Anyway, back to the tire thing. When the safety car came out, the actual, like the real safety car, the standard safety car, you know, the green Aston Martin comes out on the track instead of it being a virtual safety car. At that point, I believe there were like, 17 laps left or something in the race. And Leclerc was like, okay, let's pit. And they were like, we don't have a tire to put you on. Like the soft is not going to last 17 laps. What he didn't know is that it was going to take about 900 laps for the safety car to go away. So he probably could have made it, but nobody knew it was going to take that long and the safety car was going to lead that many laps. But I think in a normal situation with a normal standard soft tire for that track, I do think he would have put it on and it would have been very interesting at the end of the race to see, does he pass Albon? Does he pass? Like, how far can he get? Now, obviously, there are gaps, but it was a standard safety car. Everybody was bunched back together. Him in that Ferrari, which was agreeing much better with them, both him and Lewis, it would have been very interesting to see him put on a soft tire and go on the charge for the last part of the race. That would have been fascinating, but we were robbed of that because that C6 tire couldn't even last like a qualifying lap.
Who makes
all
this?
Right.
Is that Pirelli? That's all I got.
Who should we talk about next? We want to talk about what happened to Mercedes because honestly, like their race pace, where did it go? Like George had been in the top 5 every single race, and then like he finished 7th. Now Kimi had some sort of mechanical issue, some sort of failure, and just kind of had to pull off. That's what drew the standard safety car toward the end of the race. But like I was a bit surprised by Mercedes. I thought they had figured things out. This wasn't a particularly hot race either, so it's not like tires just completely fell off. But it almost feels like that's actually what happened. As the tires fell off and he wasn't able to keep them going. And I don't really know why that happened. Kyle, what are your thoughts on like what happened to Mercedes in this race?
I think there was some element of bad strategy, tires not lasting as long as it did. And it also just felt like every other car seemed to figure out like how to get those top end, like higher speeds around the corner. Because I mean, it was showing like when George was defending against Lando, like he had the straight line speed to defend Lando for a couple laps and a couple turns, but it feels as though, especially around the corners, that's where it struggled. And I think George was saying like the track temperature was higher and they were suffering from overheating. So maybe it wasn't hot, but the car was just overheating so much that it burned through the tire and just continued to compound all these issues. But I think it was just more of they didn't have the speed in the corners where everyone else did. And I think that was their downfall, especially with a track that has as many quote unquote turns. So I don't know. It's like a weird one. So I don't know if this is just like a one-off or if this is a sign of things to come. I don't remember if Mercedes brought upgrades, but we got to remember like all the other teams were bringing upgrades to this race as well. So maybe their upgrades were just substantially better than Mercedes not doing an upgrade or whatever upgrades Mercedes brought.
I think the other thing that Mercedes was not able to do is make a decision when the variable changes of the track and the tires and everything forced them to have to make a decision because Toto Wolff wasn't there, right? He was at USC because his son was graduating. He was out for the weekend, had the nice, cute message for Kimi.
And I told George, you're 27 years old, grow up.
Yeah, you're 27 years old. You don't need Papa Bear to tell you what to do. But I think that affected things. And it's not that he, maybe their strategy would have been slightly better, but at least in those type of moments when everyone's realizing that something that should be going right is not going the way you thought, you turn to your leader to say, what next? What's the next? Where do we go from here? Instead, you have all these people who their job is to tell Toto, this is what I think we should do. And Toto makes that decision. This weekend, they didn't have that last buck stop, right? Like they didn't have the person to go, yes, you're right, let's do this. So they probably had to spend time figuring out who was going to make those decisions, who was going to execute those decisions, and who was going to inform the drivers. I also think, and this wasn't a great weekend for Kimi Antonelli, and it it sucks for him because of the fact that this is his hometown and that he had his whole high school class like come out, and it was very cool, right? Like he had that. I'm glad he got that moment, and I'm sure that added to the pressure for him in his first time in a Mercedes car, being able to do that in front of his hometown fans. Surrounded by Tifosi, there was still a pocket of Mercedes people who were cheering for the hometown kid. And that pressure was probably a little bit too much for him. And I think that's what led to him having not a great weekend at the track. But again, that's not something that they can't overcome. He's going to have hopefully many more years of coming back to Italy, maybe not at Imola, but at least having Italian races where he can feel at home. But when you're at home, you get that added pressure of wanting to do well, and sometimes you overextend. And with George being kind of involved in his own little portion of the race where he wasn't really breaking through, it just felt like there was not a lot of things that Mercedes could do to overcome it without Toto there, and there probably wasn't someone there to really step up and say, okay, I'm not the boss, but I'm the boss right now until the boss gets back, and here's what we need to do because this is where we're messing up. And they may not have had that worked out well enough to perform well at this race without him.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's tough for Kimi, it's like it wasn't anything on his end of why it was a struggle for the race. Like the throttle went out, the power went out. Like that's just you have no control over that. And I think with George, I think he was saying that he had no control of his rear. There was a struggle with the rear, which also contributed. So that's why I think this is a one-off, if anything. And I would trust Mercedes more moving forward, just because it seems like the issues that happened they're fixable issues. It's not like, I don't think the car is that bad all of a sudden, but it will be interesting to see, can they turn it around? And I mean, Monaco's going to be hard to know because basically you got to do well on Saturday in order to do well on Sunday. So we probably won't get an answer till later in the summer.
Yeah, was it Bahrain where George had to basically hold the car together himself as he was driving? Yes. So Kimi now losing power, it feels like, all right, Mercedes, what's going on? But I also want to give Kimi a bit of a reprieve, okay? That's an 18-year-old kid who brought his class together. I'll be honest with you. When I was 18 years old, I had crushes. If my crush would have come to see me perform, I would have put that car in the wall, turn one. I was not slick. I was not smooth. I still am not. I would have been so nervous. I'd have been like, there she is, bow, right in the wall. So he didn't do that. I give him credit.
What was it? Rookie of the year? Where they're like, hey, Lisa Hogaboom is in section 124. He's like, where? And he goes out, he throws a dud the first game, right? That would have been any of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also like the callback to when he was still actually going to school, and he pulls up in a Mercedes, just a $1 million car, right? And gets out what's up? Everyone's outrageous. Just gathered around, people are I don't know how to respond to you pulling up like this, that, but it's great. I'm glad we're friends, but what is this here? And he's like, oh, this is my new car. He's a 17-year-old kid talking to his 17-year-old friends. But yeah, it's that's why it was so disappointing for him that his weekend wasn't so great, because I know he wanted it to be great, and that pressure again is there, even heightened by the fact that he's only 17, 18 years old.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I was him, I'm not good enough to be in a Formula One car in general. I'm not good enough. I would not have been good enough at the age of 18 and doing well. So you know what?
If false starting.
False start.
You know what? That's actually better. I wouldn't have hit the wall. I wouldn't have got off the starting grid.
You see the lights and whoa! You're wait, yo, bro, there's only one light. Oh, my bad. Let me back up.
Yeah.
Look, my tires are gone by the first turn. I have no fuel by lap one. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, would have been bad. So shout out to Kimi. It will get better. Again, probably not at Imola again. It is unfortunate that that's the last Imola experience, or what is projected to be the last Imola experience that he will have. But Monza's coming up. That's the one that Ferrari really cares about. That is a really fun track. I think it's even more fun, honestly, than Imola. Imola has a really kind of couple cool things, but they call Monza the Temple of Speed for a reason, and it's really fun. So, all right. I'm really actually excited to talk about Monaco and do our preview, but that's coming later in the week because I've got a lot of thoughts about going with the softest compound with those walls. And that the one thing we heard consistently across teams was that C6 tire slid around a lot. Good luck. Anyway, let's take a quick break and get to Accountability Corner, where we will crown our actual zoomy and gloomy boys, but also we'll review predictions that were made prior to the race. All right, let's do this. Honestly, there won't be a ton of pain, I think, from this. Kyle is looking uncertain that is true, but I don't think there'll be a ton. And Kyle, actually, let's start with you, because you actually had the three people on the podium correct, just not in the right order. You had Lando winning, Max second, Oscar third. Not bad.
It gets worse. This is probably the best my predictions went, and it's just going to go downhill from here.
Okay, but can you take the good news?
I'll take getting the three podium people right and Oscar getting the right spot. I will take that.
There you go. Okay, good. Donald, you are reprieved. You did not give us a prediction, so nothing from you.
I win.
I said Lando wins, Oscar second, Leclerc third. I was wrong.
Yep. You were close.
Yeah, not really. Deepti had Max winning. She was right. She had Oscar second, and then George or Charles third. I don't know how you put two people on a podium. I'm gonna have to talk to her about like the same step of the podium. That's not really how we do it here. But
she said, take your pick.
She did have the winner, right? So I can't be mad. Megan, she absolutely did the full wish fulfillment. She called herself Delulu. She was very Delulu. She went Leclerc, Lewis, and Kimi. Not quite, Meg. Sorry. We also predict our constructor scrap. We look at who's going to get the most points and who's going to get the least. The most points is excluded from choosing McLaren because that's just too simple, and the least is excluded we're excluded from choosing Sauber because also that is very simple. Kyle, you said Red Bull.
Oh shit. I forgot. I'll take that. Awesome. Thanks, Max.
I mean, technically the answer is Ferrari, surprisingly, but not bad. Red Bull, you did get a win, but Yuki got 1 point. So, actually, what is that math? What's fourth and sixth? I forget.
I don't know. Oh, I got you. Math.
Oh, fourth is 12.
20.
Yeah.
It's 20 points.
So you were right then. Okay, there it is. All right, so 25 for a win, and I know Yuki snuck in there, got that 1 point. He got the 10th even after that crash. So, okay, you were right. My bad. See, you said it got worse, and look.
I didn't realize I picked Red Bull.
McLaren got 33, so yeah, it's Red Bull.
Yeah. And least points, you chose Racing Bulls. That was incorrect.
Yeah.
So there you go. Ebony said Mercedes was going to get the most points. Alpine was going to get the least. She turned her back on Alpine. She was right to do so, I believe. I chose Mercedes. I was wrong. And I said least points, Haas. Actually, I think I'm right there. I'm right there. Deepti had Mercedes most points and least points, Aston Martin. She's also kind of right, least points, which was surprising given their qualifying, but they really, I think strategy got them. Fernando said he was the unluckiest driver in the world, which is just like, all right, man, like please put things in perspective. Like you're 45 years old.
You're a two-time champion. Like, hold on.
Right? Yeah, like cut it out. Over here, getting real emo on the radio, which honestly is funny. So I'll keep doing it, but also, what are you talking about? Megan said Ferrari. Which, no, we just learned through the magic of math that was incorrect, whereas I thought it was correct. And she said Baby Bulls would have the least. That is incorrect. Okay, Kyle, now here's where it might get bad for you, at least on one level. See, again, your predictions were pretty good, okay? Your Zoomy boy, you said Esteban Ocon. So
that was bad.
That was bad. Although I'm so mad at his race because I would have loved to see that early pit. Like that dude pitted 1 lap into the race. That would have been really, really interesting to see if there was a tire like strong enough to last the entire race. That would have been fascinating.
When that happened, I was strategy. Like, oh, he's absolutely cooked. This is not. When I saw him pit a lap, I was like, nope.
Yeah, that feels like that came straight off of like a simulator or something. Like somebody did that in an F1 Manager game and was like, I got it, guys.
We are so far behind. We're not going to catch up. We're just going to try shit.
Right.
Actually, it was more like he did the start and then like the lights went out and he was like, nope. Box. Like,
right back into the pit lane. It was really weird. I thought something had happened and they were like, no, he's just changing tires already. It's like, all right, whatever. But your gloomy boy, you had Fernando Alonso. Not bad.
Yeah, I mean, he's unlucky, but he got the Q3. Which
he did.
He did. Should be
he looked like he was actually going to score points, but then no. As we said before, that's been disallowed at Aston Martin. No scoring of points. So no, that didn't happen. All right, so let's do this. Give us your actual Zoomy and Gloomy boys before we get to the other predictions.
Okay, so my actual Zoomy boy, I'm going to say Alex Albon had a fantastic race. He was quick. Could have easily have gotten P4. If Lewis didn't have fresher tires, I think Albon had an amazing race. And he's getting really close to being able to podium. So I'm going to say Albon is my actual Zoomy boy, and my Gloomy boy, I'm still sticking with Fernando Alonso.
It's a good call. Ebony had Franco Colapinto as her Zoomy boy. False.
He zoomed
her
into the wall.
Boy, Lewis, right on Saturday, wrong on Sunday. Deepti had Carlos Sainz as her Zoomy boy. Not bad. And Isaac Hadjar as her Gloomy boy. That was false. He scored points. He actually was the highest. Was he the highest of the entire Racing Bull stable? He was the highest driver other than Max, right? So not bad. Not a bad weekend for him. I had Zoomy boy. I had Kimi. I was wrong. But like I said, he didn't completely fall apart in front of his crush if he has one. So that maybe there's some points there. Gloomy boy, I had Lewis Hamilton again, right on Saturday, wrong on Sunday. My actual Zoomy boy, this one's a tough one. I'm going to be honest, because I think I want to give it to Yuki. Finishing 10th with a car that, had, because of a virtual safety car and an actual safety car, cars got bunched up. He did have a car that was strong enough, powerful enough to actually win the race because one did. There is that. But recovering from that crash, I know that dude has unlimited amounts of dog, but after that crash, being able to focus well enough the very next day and go from pit lane and get yourself to a point to reward the team and mechanics who put that car. I mean, they had to rebuild that car. They said he had a new gearbox, a new engine. They had to basically redo that car. They didn't get out until 2 a.m. That's impressive. So I want to give it to Yuki for just that bounce back. And Gloomy boy, I think Pierre Gasly. I think he had a rough one. I think I kind of miss him being in the middle of things, but I also think that he just had a frustrating weekend. What was it in qualifying? Was it in qualifying or was it practice? Who he said something like, "Oh, who's that in the Aston?" It was Smart Guy. I'll remember that.
That was in Q2.
He was just mad all
In
weekend.
Q2 of quality.
Yeah, so I'm going to give it to Pierre. Donald, you didn't have a predicted one, but who is your actual Zoomy and Gloomy?
Since Kyle went with Albon, I'm going to go with Lewis Hamilton because I think, again, going from 11th, 12th and zooming his way all the way up to, again, 4th place. And if he had a few more laps and if he had qualified even a couple places higher, he's making a run at the podium. And I know this was important for him to do well at Imola, and he did that. So I'm really happy for him on that. My gloomy boy has to be Franco Colapinto because, bruh, your job was to not be Jack Doohan. And the winner of this weekend may have been Jack Doohan because he was like, y'all have been clowning me for 6 weeks and you replaced me with that for whatever, 5 races or 6 races, whatever they're doing this tandem jump thing. But Franco Colapinto, was his last race? Did he crash in his last race? In a practice or something? I have to check.
I think so.
The fact that the guy who was known for crashes in qualifying to, again, deny some people and then just does not do anything in the race. This cannot be what Alpine wanted. And Esteban Ocon, despite the fact that he was a DNF, and despite the fact that he was basically dead last in qualifying, probably feels like he got out of there just in time, got out of Alpine.
Yeah.
And he feels like he might be in a better situation than Haas, despite the fact that he's not doing well at Haas either. That's how bad.
He's ninth in the points. He's
is.
ninth in the Drivers' Championship. So
Yeah, he's picked up points.
Yeah. So that's how bad that second chair at Alpine's doing right now.
Yeah, I think that's. I was gonna. I thought about Franco, but then I was like, I'm gonna give him a week. I appreciate you, Donald, for being fuck them kids, the Jordan fuck them kids meme. I appreciate that.
He raced last year, so he's not a rookie no more.
He did. So that's fair. Yeah. I also say Jack Doohan might not want to smirk too much because for me, what Franco Colapinto did this weekend, kind of a Jack Doohan impression. Just saying.
We've seen you crash your race. Car, I mean, that's fair.
Not pick up any points. We've seen this before. Just saying. Ain't like he was killing it.
What we had to do for Alpine is just look towards the bottom of the list, and we knew we'd find the second one. Colapinto was there.
Exactly. That was it. I mean, to be fair though, in the last race, I do believe that was the first time Jack Doohan actually finished above Pierre Gasly, and then they were like, "Never mind, you're out anyway." So like that, he was improving a little bit. But I will say, to start off his career, I mean, he still is the dude who kept his DRS open at Suzuka and flew into a wall. Like, all right, my guy. Like, yes, this is. I do feel bad for you, but you also did some dumb shit. Franco's going to do some dumb shit. This is a bad situation for anybody stepping in because I don't know what the hell Briatore is doing except for crimes. This is what he does. By the way, I heard Oliver Oakes was in paddocks for like F2, wasn't he? He was at the helm of High Tech again. So he's out of Dubai. So, okay. I guess he's.
I have so many follow-up questions then.
Yeah, I guess he's fine. Russian snipers aren't aiming for him yet. Maybe. I don't know.
I'm glad to hear that he's doing well. That's what we'll
That is a good diplomatic answer, and I'm going to stop talking before I get us in trouble. We will be back with our Monaco preview. We have that coming up. It's a very prestigious race, but it's also a very interesting race. If you thought the track at Imola had kind of like the cars had outgrown that track, okay, like Kyle said, Saturday will be one of the most important qualifying, in fact, the most important qualifying session of the entire calendar. So be on the lookout for that. Plus, really soft tires, going to be interesting.
And
a mandatory two-stop.
Monaco.
Oh my God, that's right, mandatory.
A mandatory two-stop, but it's still Monaco. It's still the gold standard, at least from a prestige level, and it's the one that if you are not a race fan or people who are not race fans. Non-race fans tune in for this race, no matter how boring it may be.
Well, I was going to say that F1 might need to do something about that because for everybody to tune into the most boring race, they might have to figure that one out. That's not really going to work out all that well.
Look, you're just trying to see who's on the yacht.
Somehow has for 90 years. So, and this is what, number 94. And so this, but again, we'll talk about all the reasons why Monaco's as a driving circuit is stupid.
Yeah.
But there's still that prestige level that brings all the big dogs out.
I mean, Kyle's right. A lot of people you're just trying to see who has money, who's going to be there. That's it.
Right. Like, hell, if someone said, hey, you want to go sit on a yacht and watch the Monaco Grand Prix, I'm going to be like, hell yeah, I'm going to do that.
Right. Yeah.
I would say it from the yacht. Yes, I will stay here.
Exactly.
I'm not even there for the race. I'm just there to flex that I'm in Monaco.
Yeah.
So we will live our Monaco dreams in the preview coming up later this week. But for Kyle and Donald, I'm Andre. Vroom, vroom.
Vroom, vroom.
Vroom, vroom.